What would you do if you found out that you were destined to be the darkness and the light of your generation? And once you found out and you accepted it, then you had to prepare for battle. Hi, I'm Clowny Quin, and I'm going to do something a little bit different with this. I want to share with you one of my favorite shows. It's called Carnivale, and it came out in like the early 2000s, 2003, something like that. And it was on HBO. Let's hold up. I am pretty sure this show is streaming somewhere. I think I saw it on like Amazon or HBO on demand, or it's streaming somewhere. And if you've never seen it, stop what you're doing. Go watch it. At least watch the first 6 episodes of season 1. Go do that and then come back. Because if you haven't seen this show, I want you to enjoy this with me. Okay? Go do it. Come back. Because I really want to have a good time. And I want to share this with all of you. And if you have seen it, isn't it awesome? We're going to talk about it together right now. Okay. So the premise of this show is it's set during the Great Depression in the United States, and we follow a young man working on a carnival, and there's also another man whose story that we follow who is a preacher based out of California. And these 2 men seem to be the light and the dark that was mentioned in the beginning. And it's all very mysterious. Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's begin. In episode 1, we are introduced to a lot of different characters. And so it's a little bit overwhelming, as with any type of show. You get, thrown into their mythology and learn how it works. Let's see. So we start off, as I mentioned, the first young man, his name is Ben Hawkins, and we come upon him when his mother is dying. And it's just him and his mother in this, just house on a farm. The farm is clearly not doing well because it's the Great Depression, although everything is just terrible. And there is a bulldozer coming because he's trying to bury his mom, and there's a bulldozer coming. And as that's happening, there is a caravan traveling. It says Carnivale on the side, and there's 2 men in the main truck. One is a dwarf named Samson, and the other one is named Jonesy. And he says, should we help? We should just go on our way. And then the dwarf Samson says, no, management says he was expected. We have to help him. So they managed to stop the bulldozer, and everyone in the carnival gives a funeral for Ben's mom. And then it switches to California, where we meet Brother Justin, who is a preacher, and he has a very interesting ability that we discover. It's kind of frightening, actually. We see a woman who's like really filthy and dirty, while the rest of the congregation that's listening to Brother Justin's sermon is everyone's all like nice and fancy. And one of the women snatches a few coins from the offering plate that's been going around, and Brother Justin sees this, and he ends up, you know, coming to talk to the woman afterwards, and he brings her into his office, and he is able to reveal like her deepest sin, and he makes her like cough up the coins, and they're like just flying out of her mouth, and she's terrified, and she immediately repents. And you through this we find out that Brother Justin is able to reveal, or publicly shame, I guess, the sins of others. And yes, it's terrifying as it sounds. It seems like a really cool trick, but yeah, it's creepy, like the way that it's done. Then it cuts back to the carnival, and we're introduced to the quite a few other characters. There's an awful lot of them. There's oh my goodness. Jonesy, the one that I mentioned before, is one of the roustabouts. He has like kind of a limp, and he's one of the people that like helps you know, run like the Ferris wheel and sets up. He seems to be kind of in charge of the people that have the more like grunt kind of work, that just set up the tents and, you know, make sure animals are fed and that sort of thing. There is a bearded lady named Delilah, and she's amazing. Like she flirts with everybody. She's wonderful. And there is a man named Loads who is blind, but he is able to see. He's able to like, he has interesting abilities, not unlike Brother Justin. Like he gets impressions of things about people, gets them into visions. So, you know, the blind seer, that it's a little bit cliche, but he makes it work. Like, he's very charming. The actor who plays him is very, very charming. Like, oh my goodness. There is a mother and daughter fortune teller who reads cards of people. The mother is, her name escapes me at the moment. It's like some really weird name that I can't even pronounce, but her daughter's name is Sophie, and the mother is like catatonic, but Sophie is able to hear her in her head. And yes, I know, it's a lot. It's a lot of characters that are really, it does seem a bit, there is a lot that's going on in episode 1, and you're just like, whoa. But with shows like this, they do, you learn who they are pretty quickly. It's pretty easy to pick up. There's also a lizard man who is, it's kind of implied that he's gay, and he's really good friends with one of the cooch dancers, because there's a cooch dancers, sexy dancers that take off their clothes and that kind of thing. There's a family named the Dreyfuses, and there's it's the father, his name is Stumpy, well, everybody calls him Stumpy, and the mother, Rita Sue, the 2 daughters, and Libby, the daughter Libby, and oh my gosh, I'm having a brain fart on one of the girls' names. So Ben he's decided, they didn't really give him much of a choice. After they have the funeral for the mother, Samson, the dwarf who seems to be running the place, even though he keeps bringing up somebody else that's in charge named Management, but he does seem to be he's the one, you know, that tells everybody to get ready and break down and all that sort of thing. He like kind of tells Ben, like, yeah, you're in the carnival now. We know you have nowhere else to go. And you notice that he has a shackle from, he was clearly spent some time in jail. He's like, where else are you gonna go? So they don't really give him much of a choice, because as I said, like, Management says that he was expected, and they're like, who is this Management? We don't know. So Ben is kind of like, you know, taking a peek around, like, while the carnival is going up, he's seeing like what it's all about. He's really not into, like, you know, he peeps on, like, the Cooch Dancer family, but he's just kind of like, oh, I don't know, he's, you know, shame kind of thing, but whatever, you know, he's still a young guy, he's gonna take a peek. He also, you get to see a little bit of Strongman, whose mother is the snake charmer, and there seems to be a little thing between the snake charmer and Ben. Like, she's a bit older lady, but she's, you know, seems to have eyes for him a bit. It's like, ooh, and he's like, oh, I don't know about that. And there's a girl whose legs are paralyzed that is one of the carnival. She's like just, you know, in the carnival, not like a patron. Her family is like a patron of the carnival. And he sees her. He can't, like, Ben just, he doesn't want to stay with the carnival, so he's like, he can't really, he doesn't feel like this is a really good place for him. He thinks everybody's a bunch of freaks, so he ends up kind of like running like he's gonna leave, and then he comes across the girl who's injured, and he asks her if she's always been that way, and she says yeah, and he's like, does it hurt? And she says yes, and then he puts his hand on her and kind of like, you know, does like a moment like this, and he's like, don't be afraid. And then while his hands are on her, like, all of their crops die, but she's able to get up and walk, and it's very strange. Like, she is able to get up and run inside, and then the episode ends with, oh my goodness, I apologize, I forgot. The reason why he runs away in the first place is because Sophie reads his cards, and he has kind of flashback of how his mother abused him and told him that he was evil and that she did not want him to touch her. So, you know, it is implied that yes, he was abused by his mother, and that because he wanted to heal her, like that. Because he leaves and then heals the girl's legs. So I apologize, that was kind of a big part. Yeah, so the first episode ends with him returning to the carnival as it's pulling away from the town, going on to the next one. So that was episode 1. All right, now episode 2. Oh my goodness. So episode 2 begins, and it seems very strange, but there's this diner, and we see Brother Justin come in, and then Ben, and then 2 other men that we have not yet seen before. They all sit at this diner, and they don't sit together. Like, Ben and Justin are sitting at, like, you know, where you would order the food at the little, with the little bar stool kind of thing. And the other 2 men, the older men, are sitting at a booth across from one another. And then one of the waitresses says, "Every prophet in this house." And, or every prophet in his house. And then while this is happening, there's this song that's, it's an older song, obviously, it's from probably that time period, and it says, it's "Love Me or Leave Me." And it's a really beautiful song, but that song, you really get familiar with that song as the show goes on, because they play it whenever something kind of strange is happening, and you're supposed to, like, really be paying attention to what's going on. But, you know, if it's first couple episodes, you don't really know what's happening, like, why is this happening? So obviously it was a vision, and you begin to notice that Ben and Justin are having these really freaky visions. They're having the same freaky visions. So you realize there's a connection between the 2 of them. But what is that connection? We don't know. So episode 2, after they wake up from the visions, Ben is getting, like, extremely flirted with by the Cooch dancers, the mother and the daughters. I mentioned them before, like the Cooch dancer family. The father, Stumpy, is like their talker, the one that's like, oh, check out these fun ladies. Like, it's kind of weird, but at the same time, like, it's just, you know, it was during the Great Depression. They did what they had to do, kind of thing, you know. he's getting like so flirted with them so much, and he's just like, no, I'm not about this life. Come on, leave me alone. So the roustabouts have Ben kind of go on a wild goose chase, wanting him to clean out, you know, this baggage trailer, and the baggage trailer supposedly doesn't exist. But Ben finds a baggage trailer, and he finds a picture of his mother, and his mother is standing next to this sign, and he doesn't immediately tell people that he knows who this woman is, or this woman, like, because clearly his mother had a history with the carnival that he had no idea of, and so he doesn't mention it to anybody. Let's see, so then we are introduced to where it goes back to Brother Justin, and we are introduced to his sister Iris, as well as the man who was basically their father figure growing up, who kind of adopted them. His name was Norman, and you know, we're just introduced to them, and like Norman is very happy with everything that Brother Justin has been doing, and Brother Justin is clearly also very much caring for the woman from the previous episode, the very dirty woman who ended up taking, like snatching some of the coins, and he ended up revealing her sins, and she is bringing more of her family to the services, and which is kind of causing a little bit of problem for some of the other churchgoers. Like, they don't like having these like really dirty people at their church. Like, what the heck is going on? So then it switches back to the carnival, and the snake charmer, I'm pretty sure her name is Ruthie is her name, and she is kind of eyeballing Ben as well. Like, everybody's just really into Ben. Like, he's kind of adorable, but it's just that like innocent, you know, like, oh, get away from me. Like, I know I have no use for you women. But like, you know, of course that just makes him more adorable and more desirable, apparently, to the women in this show. Let's see. Well, we also find out that okay, switches back to Justin, and he wants to have a different place, a different area for the Okies, as they're called, the really dirty people. They call them the Okies, because more and more of them are coming to the church, and he wants to make sure that they have somewhere to worship that's not going to cause problems for everybody else. And he has a vision that he will be able to take over the there's like a Chinese brothel in town, in like Chinatown, and he has a vision that that's going to be the place that like God wants it, and the vision is pretty freaky. Like, there's bleedy rain and stuff. But of course, like, he goes to the owner, and he says that you're going to give this to us, and the owner's just like, are you out of your mind? So Justin ends up using his power, because he's able to reveal the most deepest, darkest sins of the person, and he reveals that the owner of the brothel is a pedophile. And of course, knowing this information, Justin is given whatever he wants. And yeah, it's kind of a hard scene to watch. I'm not gonna lie. You're just like, ugh, that's terrible. Very dark. You kind of just didn't expect it. I mean, you know, like, the show is pretty like, you know, it doesn't pull any punches when it with the real stuff. And let's see. So it goes. I see. Okay, so Ben is staying, crashing in the trailer of Loads and Lila, because occasionally they shack up together, of course. Lila, the bearded lady, and Loads is the blind seer, and she, like, Ben is having a rough dream, and Lila wants him to, like, see what he's dreaming, like, tell me what he's dreaming, come on, tell me, you know, that kind of thing. And so he does, and Loads is, like, traumatized by what he's seeing, because he sees the visions that we've seen before that Ben and Justin share. But they also see a man whose name is Henry Scudder, and like, this person is clearly very important. We actually, if you were paying attention to the diner scene in the beginning, you will know that Henry Scudder was one of the men that was sitting at the booth in the beginning. So, what does it mean, every prophet in his house? I don't know. Let's see. So, gosh, so much happens in this episode. Let's see. So Samson tells everybody that they're going to be heading, like tells the carnival people that they're going to be heading south instead of north because that's what management wants. And that's not really a good thing. Like everybody's kind of freaked out because they usually always do the same circuit every year. And now they're going the wrong way. And one of them kind of brings up like, oh, I hope we don't end up going to Babylon. You know, they kill carnies in Babylon and Babylon's dangerous. I don't want to go there this time of year kind of thing. So we're just like, uh-oh, this isn't good. So in the middle of the night, Sophie's mother, the catatonic fortune teller who speaks to Sophie in her mind, Ben finds her walking and she says, "You're the one," says to Ben, because like apparently this is the Matrix. And she collapses and everybody's like screaming and getting so angry and like, she's never walked before. What have you done? What have you done? And he's like, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. And once everybody calms down, like Ben goes with the snake charmer, Ruthie, and Ben shows Ruthie the picture that he found in the baggage trailer of his mother. And like, he doesn't say that it's his mother. Like Ben asks her if she knows who this is. And Ruthie says, oh yeah, that's like Henry Scudder's gal, and he used to be here. And yeah. Apparently Henry Scudder was also important to Ruthie as well. Like they might have had a fling that she implies. And so then it switches back to Justin, and the brothel owner has killed himself. And Justin is whipping himself. I don't know, there's apparently some like really religious people will whip themselves and hurt themselves similar to that of Christ. Apparently that's the thing. And I know like Catholics do it. I mean, you know, in the storybooks. Like last time I remember, I think that was in what was it? Angels and Demons, Da Vinci Code. That's it. I think that was the last time I saw it in like a movie or something. But yeah, he's doing that. I'm just like, no, that's not sexy at all. Okay. I'm gonna say right now, I have a huge crush on the guy who plays Brother Justin. I really, really love him. It's Clancy Brown. I've had a crush on him for a really long time, and I totally blame the show for it. What's something that's also really weird, because I have such a big crush on him, he also happens to be the voice actor of Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob, which makes me feel really uncomfortable. Okay, on to episode 3. My gosh, I can't believe you're still watching. What are you doing? Are you tuning in? You better be tuning in. Okay, so episode 3. It starts with like Ben and Jonesy are in the truck together, and they're, you know, driving along their way, and Ben is kind of commenting that there's not a whole lot of people on the ways that they're going. Like, why? Like, he's like, do you usually have a circuit? And Jonesy's like, well, yeah, we did before you came along, and so, you know, there's gonna be problems. And let's see. So Ben goes off into town, and he's approached by a woman, the mother of the little girl that he healed in the first episode. And so like a bunch of people in town are coming up to him like, heal me, please help me, help me. And so that's kind of disturbing. And the townsfolk refuse to have the carnival, just because they can't afford it. They don't want like the scrutiny, especially with like, you know, the dancer girls kind of thing. And so they decide to pretend that they're going to be having like a religious revival kind of ceremony, and they make it, since Ben already had like a bunch of people ambushing him thinking that he's some sort of healer, they decide, well, we could use this to our advantage. So then we go back to Brother Justin, and he, like, his, you know, bosses are getting kind of pissed off that he's still spending so much time at the former brothel that has now become like a mission home for the poorer folk, and like ends up being a place where a lot of like orphans end up living as well. And so his bosses are getting kind of mad about that, and he's just like, I can make time for both, I can do it. And it's like, we don't think so, we don't think you can do that. Let's see, so Ben also pretends to heal people, like they're doing that whole shtick. And something that was really funny about this episode 3 is that I noticed, which I remembered before, but I noticed that Bill Moseley from so many movies that I love, House of a Thousand Corpses, soon to be 3 from Hell, he plays Otis, you know. He has a few bit parts in this, like in this the show. Like he plays one of the cooks, and like it always just throws me off because I always forget that he's in it until like I hear his very distinct voice, and it always makes me happy. So Bill Moseley's in this, yay! Also, Tiny from House of a Thousand Corpses is in this. You know, really tall. Like he, you know, he's really tall and cool. He's in it for like a little bit. He's not a huge character, but it makes me smile. Let's see. They also find out, like Ben finds out that's, let's see. Ben comes along a woman who knew his father and knew of his mother as well. And she tells Ben that there are rules to his abilities. So, you know, not the only one that knows about the abilities that Ben has. Like, clearly they've seen this before. And she tells him that if he has to take something if he wants to heal, which is why the crops died in episode 1 when he healed that little girl. So it's implied that the more he heals something, the more he does something good with his powers, the more something else has to happen, like to the negative, it's implied. And so the woman that tells him this is also very sick, and she does not want him to heal her. Like she's just ready to die. She's ready to go. And but before she dies, she tells Ben that she knows where his father, Henry Scudder, went, and that he went to Babylon. So, and that's going to be where they're on their way. Where the carnival is going to be on their way. Oh my goodness. So, episode 4. Yes. Episode 4 is called Black Blizzard. And Brother Justin is beginning to face some quite serious consequences for spending way more time at the new church than at, you know, the one he's hired to do. And also with this one, that Loads, the blind seer, he wants to be able to see what Ben can truly do. So he wants to kind of test Ben and his abilities. And Ben refuses to use his powers, and Loads offers to teach him, but he still refuses. So, and Sophie is going to leave, and her mother is, you know, talking to her in her head, and is like, you can't go, there's going to be a storm. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about, I'm just going to have a nice time. And she goes into town and kind of ends up chatting up this guy. And so clearly this is something that she does when they go into town, you know, like she dresses up like, you know, a regular townsfolk instead of a carnival person, because a lot of towns that they visit, people don't like the carnival people, and they'll like attack them and try to hurt them. So she just wants to be treated like a normal person. And let's see, so like the blizzard happens because once again it's in the middle of a depression, and they live middle bumfuck nowhere where there's a bunch of blizzards from all the sand, those are really terrifying. Like, I just kind of made a little joke just then, but those are not to fuck around. No fucking around with that stuff. So the roustabouts are really, really angry that they're having to go south instead of north. Like, they're getting, like, really angry at Samson and getting angry at management because Samson keeps telling them that this is what management wants. This isn't my decision. This is where we're going to go. And, like, management is the only one that, Samson is the only one that talks to management. And Jonesy is just, he's fed up. He's like, no, I'm going to go talk to this person myself. I want to handle this because my men are getting angry. And so he goes into the trailer where management stays, and he doesn't find anybody. So that's kind of planting some doubts in Samson about how much he can trust. Samson, which is, just spreads more seeds of doubt. So this episode ends really sad. It switches back to Justin, and he's being awakened by his sister Iris, and she tells him that there was a fire at the church, and he goes to the church and he finds that there was indeed a fire, and all of the children and the people that were staying at the new church are dead. Yeah, it's really fucking sad, actually. Get some tissues, because episode 5 is not any happier. Okay, so episode 5 is called Babylon. And we've gotten a little bit of backstory that Babylon is not a great place for carnies. As they're entering Babylon, they're getting close to it. There's a man that's walking away from Babylon, and he, he's like, I wouldn't go that way if I were you. And they're like, well, we're on our way to Babylon, and he says he's leaving, and but he also says to Samson, he said, we've been waiting for you for a long time. And as they're going into getting their area set up, the carnies and roustabouts and everybody is talking about how it's bad luck. It's bad luck to do Babylon. People have died in Babylon. And Samson is talking to management, even though we don't see management. Like, he's just talking to him. So, Jonesy didn't see him in the last episode. We don't hear any response. So, like, is Samson crazy? Is he just lying to everybody? Like, what's going on? We're not quite sure. So Samson is kind of yelling. He's like, why are we here? What are we here for? Why are we doing this? Why did you want us to come here? So Ben ends up checking on Loads, and Loads is, like, sick because he's, addicted to this terrible absinthe. And Ben tells him, you don't know half as much as you pretend to. So he's just kind of like, he's so done with Loads' shit. And Ruthie ends up threatening, Ruthie the snake charmer, who has a thing for Ben. She tells Loads that if you ever mess with Ben, I'm gonna hurt you. And Sophie's mother ends up scolding her because in the last episode she ended up having sex with one of the men during the blizzard, the men that she met in town, just because she wanted to be a normal girl. And she had sex with somebody in town. And so she's like, the mom's mad about that and just calls her a slut. And so Sophie ends up befriending Libby, one of the cooch dancers, and she's kind of like talking about, that, she had sex for the first time and she's worried that she's pregnant. And the other cooch girl named Dora May is hitting on Ben again, and Ben's just like, no. No, he just keeps getting hit on by all these ladies, and Ben is just not having it. He just is not into it at all. He's like, I'm not about this. And Samson is trying to get back in good graces with Jonesy because he knows that Jonesy's mad and he doesn't quite know why. So they decide to go out on the town. So Samson's like, I'm going to treat everybody. Let's just go out in the town. Like, we're in Babylon. Let's just have a nice time. And unfortunately, there's nobody around. The man who was leaving the town before is the only one that's at the bar. He's the bartender and he's getting them all their drinks. But it's very strange. Like, nobody seems to be around. And Dora Mae, one of the cooch dancers, is talking to the bartender, and she's like, where is everybody? And he was just like, oh, if they saw how pretty you were, they'd be in town. And she's, just kind of smiles, and Libby and Sophie are becoming closer friends, and they go to like one of the little movies. They have a silent movie that the guy plays, and Ben ends up getting kind of drunk and is just wandering off, like wanders into this, what seems to be like an abandoned mine. And so like as everybody else, all the other carnies are kind of like getting drunk, just having a nice time at the bar, the camera pulls out and you see like a bunch of men that are like dirty, and they clearly are miners of the town. They're watching them, and they're just watching them. And the next day, Sophie's mom is like really mad that she's hanging out with Libby, and just there's conflict between mother and daughter. And when it's nighttime, the filthy men that were watching them before go into the carnival, but they're not saying anything, like they're not excited or anything. They're just kind of like, okay, here we are. And like, no, they play games. They go on the Ferris wheel, and they have the cooch dance, and Samson tells Rita Sue, that's the mother, and also, she's like in charge. She also does dancing as well. But she tells them, like, they say, no blow off tonight. And blow off is when they get totally naked. And he's like, we're not doing that tonight. And then Rita Sue is the one, she makes the decision. She says, there's so many people here, we can make so much money off of these guys. Like, no, we're just gonna do it. And Dora Mae is the one that gets naked, and she gets like bum rushed by the men, and then her mom and some of the other roustabouts help her get away, and she ends up like hurting her leg a little bit, and they're like, you'll be okay, you'll be all right, it'll be fine. Like, Rita Sue's like, I'm sorry that happened, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said go ahead to do it. And so it goes back to Ben, and he's just like kind of drunk and like stuck in this mine that looks like it had been collapsed. And we see his father, and like what seems to be like a ghostly kind of vision, and he like runs into him, and then we see that Henry Scudder, Ben's father, has killed someone like in the mine. And then it flashes back to Jonesy, and he's walking, like he's, just kind of walking, and he sees Dora Mae's body, and she's been killed and raped, and he takes her back to, into the carnival, and it's very sad. And they have carved harlot on her forehead. So that's episode 5. And yeah, it's really fucking sad. Okay. Whew, you doing okay? You doing good? You want to get a drink or something? All right, we're going to be on episode 6. And this is going to be the last one I'm going to talk about this time. I'm going to talk about the next 6 episodes and next Carnivale video. Let's see. So, episode 6, obviously the carnies want justice for Dora Mae's death. And that means that one of the miners has to die. Like, they don't necessarily care if it's the person that killed her. Just, one of their people died. Somebody's got to die, kind of thing. And Jonesy confronts Samson about management being a lie. And Samson, of course, was just like, management could have killed you if you had gone in there. Like, you should not have done it. You're very lucky to be alive. And then we see it switches back to Justin, and he's just like, he's a broken man. He's like, God, why did you let this happen? Why did you let those children die? And he sees their ghosts, the ghosts of the children, and he's like, you brought them back, but then they disappear, and it's heartbreaking. Like, you know, whether you're religious or not, like, seeing someone lose their faith and lose their God it's not easy to watch. Like, it's rough. So then it goes back to Ben, and Ben is having like some weird war memories that are not his own. He's still stuck in that damn mine. He hasn't quite found his way out yet. And the roustabouts can't seem to find anyone in the town when they want to get justice for Dora May. And they can't find anyone. Like, the whole town seems to be deserted. So Iris, that's Justin's sister, ends up finding like his collar, because he clearly has ripped it off and is just he's gone away. And the only man that they end up finding, the Carnies end up finding, is the man, like the bartender, the man who pointed them towards Babylon in the first place. And they decide that he's going to be the one to stand before the wagon. And the way that works is it's carnival justice, and they spin a wagon around him 3 times, and he's allowed to pick a number 1 through 6, and he picks 3, and so the number signifies how many bullets are going to go in the gun, and he's given 3 chances to either be spared or to be killed, and he's spared, which pisses everybody off, and they're like, no, that's the way it's done, we have to, like. And like the family of Dora May are like, they're just crying, and they're like, no, just kill him, he deserves to fucking die. And like the man, he says, no, he's like, no, she had to die, she was a whore, they wanted to be able to dance with her. And they're just like, what the fuck does that mean? This is bullshit, kind of thing. And so eventually Ben, let's see my notes. Samson says we have to follow the rules, and Jonesy ends up backing up Samson. So we come upon Justin again, and Justin is around a campfire. He's clearly wandered away. He's very filthy. And it's just kind of men sharing different stories, like different train jumpers and people who have just cast off their lives, and they're sharing stories. And one of the men who is listening to the stories is someone that tells stories on the radio. So it changes to the man who clearly overheard Brother Justin's story, and he's sharing it on the radio for so many people to hear. And he's heard this tragic story of the children dying, the fire burning down the church, and it's being shared with, everybody's got a radio. It's a big deal. And so Samson returns after everybody's packing up. He goes back into town, and he sees the man at the bar again. And the man at the bar, Samson asks if he knows Scudder, Henry Scudder, and the man at the bar says, all the bad things that happened in Babylon happened because after Scudder left, after he killed someone, and because of what happened in the cave, because of what happened in the mine, it killed everyone. Everyone died because the mine fell in. But they came back the next day. Everyone that died came back. And so the man says, if you're gonna kill me, like, please don't kill me in town. Kill me over the, over the hill. Please don't kill me here. And Samson asks for a drink. And then it switches, and we find Ben finally getting out of the mine. And then we switch back to Samson, and he shoots the man. So he is killed in Babylon. And then Samson leaves. He leaves the bar, and he's going back. He's leaving, going to go back with the rest of the carnies. And he looks in one of the windows, and he sees a woman. He sees Dora May, and she's naked, and it's her ghost. And she's slowly pulled back by the hand of one of the miners, and then Samson just starts to cry and the episode ends. So, right, heavy stuff. So that was the first 6 episodes of Carnivale. If you have not watched the show, please, I beg of you to watch it, man. Watch it before the next episode. I'm gonna do, I might put some episodes in between this one just to give you some time to catch up if you haven't seen it. There are 2 seasons of Carnivale. There's 12 episodes each. My plan is to, 6 episodes each episode. Maybe I'll do less. This was a really long video, so we'll see how it goes. If you liked this, if you want me to do other, review other shows kind of like this, I'd be down. It's just this one means a whole lot to me, and I wanted to share it with you guys because I think more people need to know about this show. And a bunch of stuff's getting rebooted all the time, and I would love a continuation to this, even though I'm pretty sure the creator doesn't want to, but it would be awesome anyway. All right, see you next time. Bye.